Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to another live. Um, wow, I think we're approaching about 40 lives, which is awesome. So thank you so much for being here. If you joined in last week, we definitely had a fire alarm. So we're really hoping to not have that same experience today. So no fire alarms today would be great. If this is the first time visiting one of our lives. My name is Jeff H. Sipe. I'm the founder and coach at practiceinterviews.com. We have a ton of free resources on practiceinterviews.com, including a free desktop app. So definitely check it out. We're really excited to offer all that stuff for free. We don't we don't really know when it will not be free anymore, but at some point we're probably going to start doing some paid courses, etc. So get on the app when you can. Again, it's practiceinterviews.com. I can actually throw that up there right now just to get you in. This is one of our places that you can go, which is to go into our interview courses to get some of that free content. So let's chat. So I just want to give a high level overview, as always, of what we chatted about last week, or sorry, not last week, yesterday on our video. And yesterday's video was really focused in on an item that I see as a challenge for about 99% of our clients, which is we get these failure-based questions, these conflict, mistake-based questions. And I'll tell you, it's pretty much 100% of the time that there's just too much context. There's too much information in the setup to get to that failure or get to that mistake or get to that conflict. But the question is really about the actions you took to overcome something negative. And it's just a good pause moment. If you get in these questions that want to bring you down, we bring our interviewer back up. And the only way to bring our interviewer back up is to get past that negative context quickly and really move on and focus in on the positive items. So that was a quick recap of yesterday. Again, we're really hoping today, no fire alarm. If you were here with us last week, we really appreciate you hanging out and just kind of putting up with that. It was kind of a crazy session to have a fire alarm for an hour and a half. And so everybody who hung out, again, we appreciate it. If this is your first time, if you've never subscribed to our channel, obviously, we really appreciate anybody subscribing. Hit that like button if you like what we're doing and the free content we're putting out there. And let's go ahead and dive in and get some questions answered. Lastly, we always like to say questions are great. We love positive feedback. We love any insights or comments. Remember, this is an audience-based model, so we really want to put information out there that's going to be helpful for everybody. Okay, let's dive in. So Alex, you joined a couple of weeks ago about your Microsoft sales offer. They've now decided not to proceed with your offer because it will take a minimum of 3 months to sponsor your Irish work visa, and your eligibility was not picked up by the recruiter until the offer stage. Very sad outcome. Do you have any advice for me? Should you continue working with the same recruiter to find a new role at Microsoft? All right, Alex, I'm really sorry to hear that. But yeah, you have a point of contact. We always want to utilize that internal resource to help us have better success. Let's utilize that person so that we can make sure that we're getting in front of other roles. They now know your situation. They're now connected to it. They now probably are feeling like, wow, I should have asked better questions earlier on. So really take advantage of the situation of having a POC, because that's kind of your door in. Now I'll paste a video in here that we did just for kind of building that longer term relationship with your recruiter and how you're going to do it. But you're really going to focus in on good availability, real strong role connectivity. You're going to have to do quite a bit of the work. So you're going to have to find the positions, you're going to have to push, but be gracious and kind and stay totally on top of it and utilize that POC. Again, I'm sorry to hear what happened. Okay, we are live. That's good to know. I can see the numbers. I can see people hopping on. So always excited to see the audience grow as we warm into these sessions. Okay, your first interview for CEDA on the 13th of September. The recruiter just mentioned it as a technical interview and didn't elaborate much. He mentioned that there'll be 3 rounds post that at a later date. Can you please share your recent experiences and suggestions toward the interview feedback? Yeah, so any customer engineer or sales engineer role is going to have a technical component, and usually that first interview is pretty role related. So when it comes to data and analytics, they could be asking anything and everything that's going to be pretty straight up for any customer engineer or sales engineer. So how does X work within the cloud? How could you utilize data in the cloud by utilizing Y? You really just want to be ready for those straight up technical questions, specifically as it correlates to data, specifically as it correlates to GCP. So remember, with any straight technical questions, to anybody here who's interviewing for a more technical role, hey, you got to still clarify those technical questions, because your interviewer instantly is going to trigger down a certain path. And we don't know if that path aligns with the answer we're going to provide. So just a couple of clarifying questions on those technical questions can go a really, really long way. If you decline an offer due to salary, will that be a negative effect on your reapplying for other roles at Google? Will HR help you find other opportunities, or is it a red flag? Okay, and then there's a second part to that. This comes after my research on the salary ranges in Portland, and I'm concerned. My HC meeting was last Friday, and you're waiting for an update from the recruiter. Yeah, so sometimes the circumstance is that we will have to decline based on an offer. Now, if we're talking about Google, really you have to be focused in on the long term. If we're talking about declining an offer over 10, 20, 30K, it's usually not worth it to decline, because you are going to make up that income incredibly quickly with strong bonus performance, which the bonuses are very friendly. They have really good merit increases. Obviously, the refreshers, the stock has performed pretty well over time. I mean, if you were to flash back to 2013, when I first got the stock, it's worth almost 6 times what it was worth in 2013. I know it's been unprecedented times for the stock market, but a 6x on almost every share that I've held on to, it's a big deal. So we need to be willing to come down a little bit to earn more in the long term, and that's my recommendation. But if it's 100K off, or even like 50 or 60K off, yeah, maybe. Is it more negative to decline for salary as opposed to location, as opposed to anything else? No, they're going to track. They're going to track it. They track declines heavily. All these big organizations essentially have teams to track declines. They want to hire you. You got through the process. You got all the way to the end, and you didn't say yes. They're going to follow up with you, guaranteed. I hope that helps. Okay, right on cue. Okay, G offer 40% less than expected comp. How do you think I should handle that? Don't have any counteroffer. What would be the best strategy to negotiate, or at least react to it? One of the items to remember, and again, this isn't just Google, this is all the big tech companies, they're going to come in low. Yeah, they're going to come in really low, because they're looking at the market, they're looking at the basically like salaries within the market, and then they're paying at a higher threshold for those positions. But still, if you cast a wide net across the board, tech just pays so much better. Sometimes what we see is these offers coming in and having quite big leaps, maybe not 40%, but definitely up 30% with some negotiation. I think there's also concern that I can't negotiate without a competing offer. Yeah, you can. Competing offers help because it's viable data that they can look at, but oftentimes from the baseline offer to what the final offer is, it could be quite a big leap. So let me give you a specific example. Quite oftentimes we'll see in even New York and the Bay Area, these initial stock vests coming in at like 100K over 4 years. Well, we know in L5, in the Bay or New York, for most roles, that we can get that stock number up to 300K per year, about, right? On average, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. So that instantly jumps up your yearly by 50K per year. If we're just, again, I'm just casting averages. I know it doesn't work quite that way. But then We could add on a sign-on bonus. Then with a sign-on bonus, maybe we get a little bit of a base bump. Maybe we go up 10K on the base. Maybe we get a 20K sign-on and we get 50K more a year in stock. Now you're talking about 65K more on average per year. That might make up the differential. So definitely just make sure that you're negotiating strong. Just set the anchor high. That's the best way to negotiate. Set the anchor high, be gracious and kind, and then that anchor will be the setting stone for future negotiations as well. I hope that helps. Okay, Stephen, Monday is the big day. Thanks for your feedback during our working session. Okay, you're feeling good and confident. You've been practicing. Keep at it. We're really, really close to the finish line. This is the time where I want you to push. You've been working on this for a long time, so don't stop now. Put your foot on the pedal, really lean in, make sure that you're having conversations with as many people as possible and continuing to fine tune. When you get this close, when you've been in the process for this long and interviewing at multiple companies, we just want to push as much as we can when we get to the end of the process. So good luck, and obviously let us know how it goes. Hi, Jeff. For non-tech roles, what happens if the hiring manager decided on another candidate but has very strong feedback and will compile the feedback and put it into the database? For every candidate, the feedback sticks with you. It stays with you. So we don't always get the role. And I would say that I can't give you the specific data because I just quite honestly can't remember. But I would say, maybe a third of all the candidates that came in and I hired were interviewing their first time, maybe another third were their second time, and another third were at their third or fourth or fifth time. So a lot of people don't get in the first time. That feedback will stick with you. It's more important to build a relationship with the recruiter because they're going to be the person who's easier to stay in touch with. But build relationships in whatever way you can. The feedback will stick with you and you will likely have future opportunities. For semi-non-tech roles, what happens if the HM decided on another candidate? Okay, so same answer there. The recruiter also suggested to look for other roles and would be happy to reach out to other recruiters. How valid is this internally within Google? It's pretty valid as long as the data is presented in a easy and simplistic manner. Again, I referenced this early on, so I'll timestamp that video really early on in this session, but you have to have the link to the role. You have to include bullets for why you're a fit for the role. You have to provide your availability. You should provide an updated resume for why you're a match for that position. If you are going to have this point of contact, this is the time to put forth just a little bit of extra effort. A little effort goes a long way. People get to this stage and then they don't do much with the opportunity to have a POC, and millions of people want to be in your position to have somebody internally trying to help them out. Yeah, it's good. If there's a role that might be a fit, great. Now don't send that recruiter 20 roles, 2 or 3 roles, and don't inundate them. Otherwise, they will stop helping you. Hey, new. Okay, you have virtual on-site interview with Amazon tomorrow for a TPM role. Prior to this, you had 2 one-hour phone interviews. The on-site panel now has 2 of the same interviewers. Will they ask the same questions, and how do I ensure you do not repeat the same stories? They should not ask the same questions. It's a little surprising to have 2 repeat interviewers. That's less common. So I want you to reflect back on those interviews. Think about the examples you used. I had a candidate or a client give a really good piece of advice on not repeating examples at Amazon. They had all their examples listed down on their cheat sheet, and as they used each one, they just put a line through it so that they knew they couldn't return to it. So add those to your list of probably 30 examples that you're going to need for Amazon. Add them to your list and draw a line through them, and then pick through the other examples. And remember, how are we looking at that list? We're doing this. Sue, great question. Let me write that down. And then we write it down, we put our head down, and we're just looking at our examples, and then we pick one based off of that. And again, that's just a huge opportunity. Let's slow down a little bit, especially at the behavioral questions. This is where people just dive in and they don't even really connect to the question. So they might be repeating example, not connecting to the actual question that's being asked to them. So for all questions, just a little bit of a slowdown, especially on the behavioral questions more and more. I'm just seeing sometimes a lack of connectivity to hearing the question, but more importantly, where we should start our actions. Because so often a question is asked and we're not really talking about the actions that answered that specific question. It doesn't have to be perfect, but make sure that the situation and context gets to answering the question within 30 seconds. And then the actions are more front loaded, back loaded, holistic based on the question that's being asked of you. Hey, Jeff, been following your videos and live stream. Good to see you back, Nick. You got a Google offer today. Oh my goodness, amazing. We'll say the same thing every week. Really, this is a testament to you and the time and effort and energy that you put into the process. So congrats. If you got an offer today, just make sure, don't accept that first offer. Make sure you negotiate, because the first offers, there's lots of bandwidth to extend those offers. And the number one area that they're going to extend it is stock. So just make sure you go back and you get more stock. But congrats, it's amazing. Okay. Does Google tend to down level? You're currently a marketing manager for 1.5 years, but a recruiter reached out to me for a specialist position. Am I able to up level during the interview? Yes, you can up level by showing off a very strong skill set. And does Google tend to down level? Yes, they do. It's not everybody. There's this kind of, people think it's every role, but it's not every role, but do they go on the more conservative end when it comes to leveling? Absolutely. And just remember, if you're in a marketing manager role now at a smaller or mid-sized company and they want to hire you as a specialist into a larger company, that's a normal career pivot that will likely pay you more money. So just my 2 cents. Finished the final interviews with Google for an account strategist role. Your recruiter said that the team likes you a lot, but the position is no longer open. She said the next position would be mine. Do you know the likelihood of this position opening, or have you heard of experiences like this ending in a hire? All the time. And will they reopen another account strategist role soon? They will. Somebody will leave. It's a high churn position, right? People in these account strategist roles, they do not stay forever. So will there be another opportunity for you? Yes. Keep doing what you can in the background to learn anything about the Google ad space. Just stay sharp on your interviewing skills, just in case they come back and they say, we want to do one more interview. So stay on top of it. My best guess is that you'll be hearing about an opportunity in the next 4 to 8 weeks, would be my guess, that they will try and hire you this year, if at all possible. So good luck, and come back and keep us updated, please. Okay, welcome back, NAFTA. Okay, so during a fit call, Google hiring manager mentioned they prefer someone cleared by HC. Do I have any say in convincing the recruiter to put my package to HC while waiting for the next fit call? You can 100% have that conversation. Hey, our recruiter's Jane. Let's say, hey, Jane, any possibility of putting me through HC? Do you think my packet is strong enough to go through HC without hiring manager statement of support? Now, this is pretty ridiculous, right? As a recruiter, I would need to talk to that hiring manager to say, why are you having this conversation? Stop talking to my candidates that are not hiring committee approved. Or maybe that was just a way for them to back out because it wasn't a complete fit. But yeah, you should definitely be talking to your recruiter, and you need to give your recruiter on that feedback that what the hiring manager said to you, so that other candidates who are not HC approved are talking to this hiring manager who seems to not want to talk to non-HC approved candidates. There's flexibility in this process. If I'm your recruiter, I can take you to hiring committee before team match, but the feedback has to be pretty strong without it. So my best guess is that the recruiter didn't do that because maybe it's not quite strong enough without a statement of support, but I'm just guessing. I don't know. So it's a great conversation to have. You're a new grad preparing for FANG coding interviews from India. What is the best advice for cracking the interviews in your first try? Lots of practice. Lots of practice is the number one area where most new grads, most people who are newer to the interview process, they don't practice. Now there's a million online tools from Pramp to LeetCode to 100 other platforms where you can practice with other people for free. Do it. And especially because those platforms tend to lean to people who are younger or more junior in their career, it's going to be a great platform to practice on. Secondarily, most newer interviewers, especially on the tech side, don't ask clarifying questions. Assumptions are made and they dive into the answer. This is a challenge for everybody, but technical questions oftentimes have multiple paths. So just keep that in mind. Clarification can also be incredibly impactful. Hi, Jeff, can you confirm if questions for a TPM interview will be similar to that of a product manager interview? I can confirm that they will not be similar at all. Product manager roles are going to focus heavily on design, analytical, strategy, technical, and estimation types of questions. TPMs are going to be much more collaborative focused, prioritization, large scale scope, programs, projects. They're very, very different. And this is especially if you're going into an interview at a Google, they're going to be completely different interviews. I hope that helps. Took 2 months to get a fit call. Is there anything you can do to make your profile more attractive? Just be really proactive with your recruiter. This is really tough. And yeah, it's been a while since you've been here, maybe a month or so since we've seen you. So yeah, this is just part of the process. And I can see that Tina came in next. Thanks for saying congratulations to Nick, Tina. And I can tell you, you know, Tina's the perfect example. Almost a year of fit calls. That's not ideal. That's not normal. But patience is a virtue. Just stay very, very proactive with your recruiter as much as you can. Okay, sorry guys, I scrolled way too far ahead here. Okay, so finished last interview, and the recruiter asked for my number, saying that it could help get into the final stage. She guessed my level at L4, but wanted my expectation before HC. Okay. I gave her my number, and she replied, "Your expectation exceeds our L4 band. We can take one more interview to see if you have the L5 equivalent ability. What's the best action plan for me?" I would go in as an L4. If you add another interview and you don't make it, there will be no job offer. Again, I can't tell you. I don't want you to get fixated on level. Comp is more important. So if it's not meeting the comp range, but this is a little bit of a ridiculous move by the recruiter. Like, they're really not setting you up for success. I don't love this move. You're taking on quite a bit of risk by taking on another interview. If you bomb that interview, it's over. So maybe you're a great interviewer, and I want to always sing like the positivity and the confidence, but to throw another interview in the mix, you could be giving up the job. It's just something that you're going to need to contemplate. Hey, Jeff, you have a Google Hangout interview in 2 hours. After that, if everything goes well, it's on sites and a huge help. Awesome. Nicholas, good luck. And the fact that it's in 2 hours and this was at 10:12, so just remember, if it's around noon today, I want you to shut down in about a half an hour. Nothing for about an hour before the interview. Meditate, go for a walk, shut your mind down, let your mind relax, because you're going to be stronger in the interview. If you're prepping up until the last second, you are wasting brain energy, and I don't want that. Okay. So good luck, but definitely have a little bit of a shutdown period. It doesn't have to be an hour. It could be 45 minutes, a half hour, but shut down. Give your brain that time to relax. It's really important. All the science backs that up. Awesome. Okay. Do you know if there are any new issues with the TN1 visa for Canadians? I noticed recruiters have been more hesitant now before regarding providing this support. I think that across the board, just what I know, and I am not an expert on sponsorships or visas or any of that stuff. I just want to really state and be very, very clear about that. But I think across the board, what we're seeing is that the visa process and the sponsorship process has gotten tougher. Part of that was the past political landscape, and that just made things harder. I know it's been narrowed down a little bit. So yes, based on what I've seen, I would agree with that. But just keep trying, keep pushing. Okay, this is a good time. We're almost half an hour in. If you're enjoying this content, please hit that like button for us. I know we don't like to do big pauses, but we love likes. If you've never subscribed to our channel, subscribe if you're liking the content, and thank you so much for being here. You watched all your videos before every interview, and you started your first day yesterday. Amazing, Rod. Like, congrats. It's so awesome. If you watched that first video, oh boy, you can see the journey, how crazy the journey was for me. But this is really all about you, the effort, the commitment that you put into it. And just thank you so much for showing up and letting us know. Just absolutely amazing, and congrats. Good luck. Congrats, Nick. Oh, I love all these congrats. All right. Yes. Nooglers. We got lots of people. Thank you guys so much for throwing out all this positivity for people. This is awesome. And I think everybody who knows we love the positivity on this platform. Why? Because the alternative just isn't as fun as being positive. So thank you everybody for being here, and continue to show up and share your stories. We appreciate it. Okay, hey Jeff, I know this question makes your skin crawl. You had the full interview for a TPM over 2 weeks ago. You've emailed the recruiter after a week. He promised midweek last week. He promised last week, midweek, no reply yet. Follow up again. We're at Wednesday of this week. It's totally acceptable to say, hey, just wanted to check in. I'm still excited and enthusiastic about the role. I have 2 interviews on the same day. Both are 45 minutes each for a search marketing manager. You got the video call links, but you have not been told what these interviews will entail. Is this GCA, RRK, leadership, or googliness? Have you guys been told by your recruiter the focus areas of the interviews beforehand? Yes. And if a recruiter tells you they can't tell you, this actually needs to be a pushback moment, because 95% of candidates are learning what the interviews are about before they go in. So if you're in that 5% bucket of recruiters that are all of a sudden saying they can't tell you, you want to push back and say, I currently have 2 friends interviewing at Google, and they know the focus areas, and I'm having a little bit of a hard time understanding how sharing, whether it's an RRK, GCA, or googliness or leadership interview, would uncover any confidentiality in the process. Can you please help me understand why my friends are learning about what the focus areas of their interviews are, but I'm not being told? It's a very fair question, because recruiters are just making this up. They're too lazy to look. They just don't actually know the answer. We need to push back on them. There's no accountability anymore. I really don't know what's going on. Everybody sees it. I talk about the positivity, but when I hear about all these recruiting nightmares, it's just, I can't figure out what's happening. And remember, to anybody here, to interviewing at any company, if you get surveys and your recruiters are not giving you the white glove experience, you need to let them have it in the surveys. Otherwise, all you're doing is you're going to allow that to happen for another candidate. So you need to pay it forward. They need to feel the pain. If they feel the pain, they will get better. That's all I can say. And trust me, I got this feedback early on as a recruiter at Google too. And what did it do? It made me a better recruiter. One candidate said, hey, Jeff didn't do X well enough. I heard about it, I felt it, and I changed. Yes, congrats, Rod. Okay. After you're on site, recruiter told you you're an L4. Is it possible to negotiate levels to an L5? You have 5 years of experience at Microsoft. You have 30. I have a 30 team matching call, 30-minute team matching call this week. What kind of questions to expect? Is it okay to ask about remote policy? So you're probably not going to get up leveled. 5 years of experience at Microsoft. I don't know your total years of experience, but yeah, that's not out of the realm of possibility to be an L4. And you should absolutely not talk about remote work policy in a team match call. I instantly wouldn't hire you just for that question. That's not a hiring manager question. That's a recruiter-based question. So really make sure that you're asking your recruiter about that. But look, I want to get the offer. Then once we get the offer, then we can say, you know, this is really great, but I actually need more of a remote opportunity. We ask for things that are pretty big once they want to hire us, not before. If we're asking before, it's not going to work. I hope that helps. Anyone have the base salary ranges for non-tech L4, L5 roles at Google, Facebook, caps L4 at 145 and L5 at 175? Yeah, it's going to be similar, but again, remember, this is 100% dependent on market. So these are ranges that sound like New York or Bay. How do I reject an offer graciously? Do you have any recommendations on what to focus on to make the call positive? Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. When we decide to decline or reject an offer, 100%, it's always, always, always done over the phone. You have to decline over the phone. They've put a lot of time and effort to hire you. To decline via email, which happened to me as a recruiter multiple times, really, like, I wouldn't work with that candidate again. I wouldn't help them again. That's a total lack of respect, and especially if you're a recruiter who's good. So call them, tell them you're really grateful for the opportunity, but it's not the right timing. You found something else, and you'd love to stay in touch for the future. And that's simply how you're going to do it. Just graciousness and kindness is all you need to focus on. Okay, so we answered that question. Okay. In team match, you were matched with 2 hiring managers. First manager is interested. Second one is still interviewing others. I don't want to lose out an offer. Do I wait for the second HM to get back to me? I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I mean, if Tina's still in here, Tina, you can chime in. But if you like that team, I would just say, hey, I'm interested. Let's move forward. You do not want to lose the opportunity. Sometimes people don't get hired because they get too picky in the team match stage, or there's just not enough teams to match with. So I would move forward with that team. Unless you saw any red flags or any reason why you wouldn't want to join that team. But I don't know. I would just get into it. That's my strong recommendation. Get into the organization because, yeah, sometimes you could be in the team match stage for quite a long time. You have an RRK2 case study for a cloud consultant role at Google. Is this the same as the presentation interview? Would you expect this interview? Okay, so definitely RRK2 for a cloud consultant. Remember, I'm not the authority. The authority is the recruiter, and so we have to ask our recruiter these questions. But you know, if the cloud consultant case study looks anything like the customer engineer, sales engineer, it's 7 slides on an impactful project that you've done in the past. But ask your recruiter. They should be the one answering that question and giving all that information. If you have a competing offer from Amazon that's significantly higher than Google, would Google rescind their offer? Would they require me to share the Amazon offer letter? Yeah, share that offer. 100%. I would share that offer. They're not going to rescind the offer based on another offer from Amazon. They'll try to come close. They do not always match competing offers. They used to. They used to pretty much across the board match competings. This was back in like 2014, 2015. I think it was around 2016 that they just stopped trying because they didn't feel like they needed to. But definitely show them that offer, especially if Google is your preferred company. They'll come up. They don't like losing to Amazon. how would you structure your answer for the following? How do you identify the root cause of a technical challenge? Watch me before, you know where I'm going. Have we ever faced this challenge in the past? Yes or no? What's the scope of this challenge? Is this an internal challenge, an external challenge, both? Am I going to be working with stakeholders that are just close to my team? Am I going to be working with product, engineering, or any other teams that I might be working with? It's a little bit open-ended. That's not the best question. I want to know where we were at in the program, initiative, project's journey. Are we in the beginning, middle, or end? Because that is definitely going to impact how I identify the root cause of a technical challenge. Then this is going to probably be some form of a hybrid of all three frameworks. I want to really understand the historical data, the timeline, my resources. I want to know how we can ultimately scale this, automate it, look at flexibility, and I'm going to have to focus in on listening, questioning, coming up with an action plan, et cetera. So those would be some of the framework concepts. And then, as always, the solution would be very, very role specific. I'd make some assumptions about the technical challenge, and then I would get into the weeds. Hope that helps. Hi, Jeff. Great guidance. You've been approved for hire by H6 for the L6 partner manager role at Google Cloud. Amazingly, that is awesome. You've been approved. Okay, so make sure you negotiate like crazy. That's all I can say. Good luck. Absolutely. You're looking for a TPM position, but a fit call for a program manager becomes available. Should I accept it? Am I down leveling by going for a PGM role? Any impact in the long run? Thanks. I would be open to it. If it's taken 2 months to get one team fit, team match call, yeah, I would be open to a program management role. There's a couple things to remember. Program managers get paid less. It's not significantly less, but the T is a slight uptick. It's a slight up level. So that's one, not up level per se, but it's a slight comp upping from the technical piece. In the future, if you ever wanted to move over into more of a TPM role, you're going to have to pass a couple of technical interviews to move over. But if I were in your position, knowing the data I have, I would be very open to it. And again, it really depends on your career aspirations. That's going to be a big part of it. It took longer and the role has been filled, so they're considering a hire ahead. Does this exist, or shall I ask for another role match? Okay, interesting. I've never heard them call it that. Hire ahead. Wow, that's kind of interesting. So they want to just get you hired and find a team match. Yeah, that's. I saw a couple of instances of this, but this is pretty uncommon. So clearly they like you. I would just say be really open and flexible. Obviously, you want to find the right team and right fit, but just be super, super flexible in this part of the process. I hope that helps. Okay. Hi, Jeff. You have a phone interview with Google for a PM role in data analytics for Google Commerce. Yeah, Elizabeth, I just want to make sure for a PM role. So this is a product management role in data analytics for Google e-commerce. Can you just confirm that it's product for me? And I know it's been about 13 minutes since your comment, but hopefully you're still hanging out with us. How much time do you have to react or reply to the initial offer? Depends on how pushy your recruiter is. I was probably the most casual, and I just said, get back to me when you feel comfortable. If I hadn't heard back for a few days, I'd check in. Some other recruiters say you need to respond to me in 12 hours or 24 hours. Internally, there's really no rules. So just make sure you're keeping them in the loop. I wouldn't wait too long. Usually 1 to 2 days is acceptable. Once it gets past a couple of days, they're going to start wondering what's going on. Okay, hey Walter, last week you mentioned jobs within the bets at Google. Is it possible to set up separate interviews with the bets if you do not pass the onsite with Google Main? Yeah, absolutely. Remember, they pretty much work as separate entities. They're not combined. So yeah, absolutely. Could you get interviews with the bets as well? Can you get interviews with the bets while you're interviewing for a job at Google? Yep. Just think about how you want to spend your time and prepare for the interviews. Okay, how weird is this? You have to I have complete the hire process for a role, and the HC has approved me for a hire at L6. But since the process took 10 weeks, the original role has been filled. This is very common. And they came back with a hire ahead contract for the role to be funded in January. Do you have a counter from AWS? Okay, whoa, this is weird. Okay, this is kind of one of, I mean, obviously we want to take everybody's situation very seriously, but this is kind of one of the reasons why we do this. We're getting really live data, and we're going to go right back into our internal resources today and figure out what this hire ahead thing means, because it's clearly a little bit of a different process. They have to have this process because of their painfully slow hiring process, and hopefully this hire ahead is basically telling them that their process is too slow or they're just using a band-aid. We're going to need to figure out more about this because, yeah, I think that this is a new data point. I really haven't heard it mentioned in this way. So, yeah, we'll find out more for you. Again, anytime we're talking about a dream opportunity, if Google's really where you want to be, I can't tell you whether to go to Google or AWS. I can tell you historically, Google is known to have a better culture than AWS, but a lot of that obviously depends on leadership, the role, etc. Okay, so Tina sharing fit calls. I don't know if Tina's still hanging out. She did get hired by Google and probably doesn't have time to hang out with us all the time, but I know it was, I think I know the answer to that. I think it was either 5 or 6. I'm pretty sure 5 or 6 would be my guess. I want to say 5, but I'm not 100% sure. May sound off the topic, but no, nothing's off topic here apparently, because everything's on the table. But during the GCA round, can you share any particular vision regarding the company, which I think Google can ace, as it coincides with their 9 principles of innovation, so it acts as a catalyst in front of the interviewer? When it comes to these Google topic areas, like the innovation, like the Google, like quote unquote principles that are like Amazon's, Google employees don't know them. I don't know what they are. I still don't know what they are. I didn't know what they were when I was there. And the most important item is, let's not get off topic. Try not to force your agenda into any aspect of the interview, whether that's GCA or anything else. We cannot force our agenda, because if we force our agenda, we are instantly saying that we are not connecting with our interviewer. So that could be, again, at any stage of the process. Oftentimes with clients, I'll hop on with a client and I'll say, okay, I have your notes, I have the position, we can dive in, but any questions? And then they say, well, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. And we end up wasting 3 to 5 minutes. And I try and stop them and say, well, I didn't ask that question, right? Because I just want to dive in and give you the feedback and help you need. So at no point should you be trying to implement your own agenda. Only if it's natural and it makes sense, implement it. But this sounds a little bit outside of the scope of a GCA interview, and I would not try and force it. Just my 2 cents. Okay, Nick, you got into your target L5. You need Jeff's negotiation coaching. All right. Yeah, you can absolutely mail us directly. You can direct message us on Slack, or you can email me at jeff@practiceinterviews.com. Okay, 6 roles, 5 teams, 25 interviews total. Hang in there. And yeah, I mean, again, Tina's case is uncommon. So this is not typical. Now, for AVP roles, they tend to have a higher number of team match calls in general. That's just the role in general, because the personal connection between the hiring manager and the AVP is more critical than other roles. But still, it just goes to show you, hang in there. Tina did, and she had fantastic results because she did. We're hovering around 40. Okay, So we want to see if we can get 25 likes. Yeah, I'm seeing the numbers at about 50 people right now. So if you haven't liked this video, obviously smash that like button. I don't know why everybody says smash the like button. It's kind of a weird thing. And if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Let us know how you feel about that smash word with the like button. It's kind of weird, but a lot of people say it, so I'm throwing it out there. Okay. Is a team match mandatory for every candidate? Does that happen after HC approves the packet or before HCs or once you clear the G and L round? So we did a team match video, and I'll put that in the YouTube description, really high level. The team match can come after the first interview, it can come after the full slate of interviews, or it can come after hiring committee. It just depends. And then sometimes you interview for a specific role with a specific hiring manager, and there is no team match call. So it's all over the place. It's across the board. I tried to avoid the salary combo in the first call and asked what they offer, but they wouldn't budge, so I had to give a number. How do we avoid a persistent salary disclosure conversation? Graciousness and kindness. Yeah. At no point are you forced to do anything. And if at any point a recruiter said, no, I won't move forward without a number, say, unfortunately, at this time, I cannot move forward for this position. I really appreciate your time. Because at a big company like a Google, a Facebook, an Amazon, a FANG company, any of these big companies, they will never take you out of the process because you don't give a number. So at a smaller company, maybe, because at a smaller company, there are no rules, but at the big companies, you are not forced to give a number. And if they did not give you a salary range, I will really want you to check that that's a state where they don't have to give it. Because in California, and New York, and Massachusetts, and Colorado, and a bunch of other states, if you ask for it, they have to give it to you legally. And if they don't, again, it's against the law to do that. Okay, hey, Stacy. You have 8 to 10 years of program and project management, don't have a bachelor's degree or an MBA. What's the best way to approach this when interviewing? You're looking to go back to school. Any guidance is appreciated. Yeah, here's the good news. I don't care. And I absolutely would not ask you that in an interview. If you get into the interview process, you're getting in because of your interview skill set. I hired both program managers and technical program managers at Google with no advanced degree, no bachelor's, no master's. So it's just about networking, having those connections, getting in the door. The education is secondary, and quite honestly, I just would tell you not to focus in on that. Focus more in on networking and your interview skill set. That's a better way to up your game. That's just my personal opinion, though. What are the common reasons for HC to reject a candidate that's already got a team match? What's the accept reject ratio? It's already got a team match. Yeah, I mean, there are no ratio numbers. It really depends on role. It depends on whether Bob and hiring committee is in a good mood or bad mood that day. There are no numbers. Hiring committee looks at the collective feedback. They're removed from the process and they decide. And obviously, that is what makes getting hired at Google tougher. Yeah, congratulations, Lee. Okay. Wonder how many years of practice went into answer all open-ended questions and behavioral questions just like that. A long way to reach this stage. Hats off. So yes, we had our first client in interview coaching client in early 2019. So, you know, approaching 3 years of doing the coaching. And for everybody who's watching, who thinks that having the experience at Google is valuable, well, it's valuable. I was in the arena, I know it, but I was not a professional interviewer until I got to speak to many clients a week. And anything we do a lot of over time, we get better at it and better at it and better at it. And that's what I love about working with clients is I can see my skill set improving on a weekly basis. And then those skills, those learnings, that information, we're able to funnel that back to you for free on YouTube and in these YouTube lives. And so that's the most amazing experience. The videos are fueled by what's going on with our clients. The lives are fueled by what's going on in the marketplace. But yeah, it took a long time. All this stuff, I didn't even know what the STAR method was until I started to learn about interviewing. So I never knew about it as a recruiter at Google. The CFAS method is totally created from what we've seen from clients and their experiences and how to create a system and get organized for interviewing. And we hope, and I don't want to get too off track here, but I hope that's our differentiator, that we have created a concrete system for interviewing. Because if you follow a system, a methodology, it's going to make interviewing easier. Go in with a plan. Having a plan for interviews creates massive success. You have a phone screen and now have 2 video interviews scheduled. Are these then the on-site interviews? Plus one of my interviews is on the West Coast and another is based in London. Yeah, so I don't know what role you're interviewing for, but everything is virtual on-site now, so you're not going to be in the office for any interviews. So once we get past that first interview and go into any additional interviews, these are quote unquote the on-site stage. It's just that they have tremendous flexibility with doing on-site interviews, just because of COVID. Now, my best guess is if one's on the West Coast and one's in London, that you're based somewhere on the East Coast. That way they could have the 3-hour difference and the 5-hour time difference. That's just my best guess. Quick question regarding team matching. You had your first team match meeting this afternoon. Oh, you have your first team match meeting this afternoon. What questions should you expect from the hiring manager? Will questions come from the resume items? How technical are they? We don't know. They can ask you anything. And Tina, who's here, can confirm that she got GCA type questions in her team match. Some hiring managers won't ask any questions and will just ask for your questions. The most common is they're giving an overview of the role and then asking if you have any questions. Will they ask about your background? Sure, high likelihood. Keep that very condensed and concise and role specific. But it is the Wild West when it comes to these team match calls. We cannot tell you what's going to happen because we don't know, because there are no rules. They're not scored. It's really about having good energy and building connectivity. And it's really interesting. Tons on the team match today. Okay. Yes. Okay. We will be negotiating. And yes, absolutely. My wife and I were lucky enough to we were in London right at the beginning of COVID and got out at the beginning of March in 2020, but just can't wait to get back. Love the UK overall. It's great. Thanks. Thanks a ton for the awesome content practice interviews. You accepted an offer from McKinsey in their cloud group and have joined the firm. Okay, amazing. Amazing, Ram. And McKinsey, that's like a really good pivot for us because McKinsey's so famous for their case study questions and using frameworks. And so some of our methodologies actually do really apply really well for McKinsey types of candidates and clients, even though we don't really work with those very often. That's amazing though. McKinsey is, I mean, as you know, McKinsey is one of the elite consulting firms in the world, and it's going to open tons of doors, and all the diversity of the client space and what you'll work on, it will be awesome. So good luck. Thanks so much for showing up here. Absolutely. You're welcome. Thank you so much for the positive feedback. We appreciate it. Awesome. Okay. You have 1 year gap between your BS and MS due to the pandemic and family issues. Will that affect new grad interviews? No. Everybody's gone through it in one facet or another. Some obviously much more devastating than others due to COVID, and everybody's been through the ringer over the last. It seems like it's been forever now. This is just the world we live in. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. Just be able to speak positively about your experiences and how you've been able to learn and grow in the time and gap and space between education. We actually got this question last week, and I think it's a great question. I don't believe it's possible. I do not think that you can over prepare for an interview, but that's just my 2 cents. Not everybody agrees with that. They think there's a level of over preparation, but are your examples really going to be too perfect? Are you really going to be able to have the best clarifying questions, the best frameworks, the best solutions? Did you really talk to too many people, practice with too many people, it's unlikely. Yeah, it's unlikely that you've been able to I just find it hard to believe that you can over prepare for an interview. There's the commonly asked questions, there's all your behavioral examples, there's prepping all the crazy open-ended questions you could face. So I just say get after it and keep practicing and preparing. That's just my opinion. Okay, that's why I asked Elizabeth. Thank you for that. So it's a program manager. Just so you're aware, and I know that there's a lot of confusion there. PMs are product managers, and PGMs are typically program managers. I can't. I don't set the rules on the abbreviations, but it's just something to know. Because I was thinking like data analysis. I was like, oh, I don't know if that's product. So for a program manager, data analysis for e-commerce, obviously I want you to focus in on that data and e-commerce piece, especially when you're getting to the solutioning of open-ended questions. In these initial interviews for the program manager roles, they are going to heavily focus in on your program management skills and then some of your more domain-specific skills. So really know that operational framework backwards and forwards and have some great examples of communicating a program or project that was over budget, behind schedule, communicating a major change, those types of items, very common behavioral questions for these types of positions. No red flags with the first hiring manager. The problem is the team is based in Seattle and you would be in SF. The role is not an exact fit. Other roles more interesting. Would it be easy to transfer? Not right away. Yeah, not right away. So usually when we talk about getting into these big companies, people are like, stay a year. Really for the first role, it's typically more like 2 years because the first year is really getting your legs set and making sure you understand the company, how things work, how to put things together. So it might be a couple of years. So in this specific instance, it might make sense to wait for the other team, especially if it's in a different location and a less desirable position. You're putting yourself at risk a little bit, but it sounds like there's other risks for taking this other role. Continue to keep us updated and let us know how we can help. How to best answer. I love this one. A large customer was given some poor advice by a former industry manager at Google. How do you repair the relationship? I think I know this question because I think I might have created this one, or I created it from a hybrid of questions I had seen. So, the biggest item that we need to focus in on here is really establishing some really good historical data. And then this becomes a strongly collaborative, focused question where we really focus in on listening, questioning, empathy, psychological safety, inclusivity, anything that's going to bring and make this client or customer feel like they're being heard. And then you're really going to work on those internal stakeholder relationships to solve for it. You really need to understand how bad the advice was, what the impact of that bad advice was. Was this a week ago, a month ago, 2 years ago? You need to understand the timeline focus. You need to understand the size of company, maybe the industry. There's a ton of items to consider here. I absolutely love this question. But when it comes to the framework, this is an interpersonal question. We need to fix and rebuild the relationship. Then we can solution. Yeah, great question. Oh, how do you hire for inclusivity? Okay. For anybody hanging out here, I asked this question pretty much, not 100%, but 90% of the people going into people leadership roles, I will ask this question, how do you hire for inclusivity? And I would say that almost everybody misses a couple of critical data points. So how do you hire for inclusivity? If I were to answer this question, I would say my approach, and just a pause moment, anything's on the table for this question. This is one of the rare questions where I throw all rigidity out and you can talk through it. You could bring up an example. It's just a question where you want to have a good dialogue. That is the most important. But for me, it's putting so much emphasis in on the importance of hiring for inclusivity. So making sure that that's part of my messaging to anybody I work with, people who sit within my team, people who sit within recruiting, leadership, because it's incredibly important. And the science and data shows that the more inclusive the team is, the higher the revenue results. Not only to mention it's the right thing to do, but why not do the right thing and make more money at the same time? It's a win-win for every single organization, and the data and science supports it. But the more important piece that's most often missed in this question is talking about the partnership with recruiting. Because especially if this question comes at a larger organization, which it typically does, people miss this point of really focusing in on, well, building a strong partnership with recruiting, make sure that we're reviewing resumes, that we can kind of do the visual representation to find out whether it's a diverse candidate, female candidate. We're looking at candidates who don't have a bachelor's degree. We're making it incredibly inclusive in that manner. Then there's a couple of other niche down points that are really important. We really need to make sure that the job description we've written and we've reviewed is inclusive, and we want to get an inclusive lens on that job description. And the last piece, and the piece that not a single person has ever mentioned when I've asked this question, is interview panel. And I'm very, very attached to this. How do you hire for inclusivity? You better make sure that that interview panel is inclusive. If a female candidate comes in and interviews with 4 males, that's not a good experience. So we need to look at the holistic process, not just saying we want to do it, not just partnering with recruiting, but making the job description and overall hiring process inclusive as well. And I'm obviously pretty passionate about this, as you can tell, but that's a critical missing data point that I've never heard any candidate or client of ours actually ever say. How long should you wait to reapply to Google if you didn't pass the GCA interview? For different types of roles, you can apply now. If you want to apply to the same role, 6 months. And I would say if you got into the interview process, I wouldn't be applying at all. I'd be building a strong relationship with your recruiter. And as I referenced, this will be attached as a video very early on in the YouTube description. I covered a question like this earlier on, but build a strong relationship with your recruiter, because you don't want to have to apply again. You want to have that inside path to a new job. Okay, hi Jeff. You've been working as a Google Cloud engineer for about 4 years now for various consultancies like Accenture in the UK. How do you get your foot in the door? I think somebody with your type of background, you need to network. Anybody working at Accenture, that's one of the premier companies in the world. And you should be able to network your way in. I would strongly recommend not applying. Yeah, I really, really want you to network your way in, and I think you can. And I'll put a networking video in the YouTube description for you. What's more important, discussing ways of doing it and not enough? Wait, what's more important, discussing ways of doing it and not enough time to implement, or a short discussion and implementation, not brute force, but not optimal? I'm not sure what's being asked here. If you can maybe restate the question. You have a second question here. You have an on-site. Are interviewers harder on people if you come from Facebook or Amazon? Okay, so let's go back to this question for a second. Discussing ways of doing it and not enough time to implement. Yeah, I mean, all I would say, okay, I can answer this question. I just want examples that are complex and diverse, and I don't actually care if you got it right. I just want to know about the step or steps you took to try and get it right. That's more important. On-site interviewers shouldn't be harder, whether you're coming from one or the other. If you're going into a cloud role and coming from AWS as opposed to Facebook, they might be harder on you, but they shouldn't be harder based on where you're coming from. And don't assume that they know where you're coming from. A lot of times I would be thrown into an interview last minute. Very, very often that happened. I would never look at the candidate's background. And Now I don't do it on purpose. I want to come in with no bias. I actually don't want to know that you're from Facebook or Amazon. That might make me or lead me to think that you're better than somebody else. And I don't want to get in that mindset. So when I work with clients, I'll do a 1 second snapshot of their LinkedIn profile, but I really don't look at their backgrounds because I want to remove bias when I'm coaching them. And that's what I think that interviewers should be doing as well. Leadership question. Tell me about a time when an internal team was not meeting your standards and how you were able to coach them and improve them up to your standards. How'd you go about it? Okay. Yeah, I mean, everybody should have an example for a time where they were able to drive or help an internal team. That can be your direct team, that could be a collaborative team. The number one kind of point of failure I see on this question is that a lot of people pick out a person, and this is really a team-based question. If you don't have an example of a time that where you pushed an internal team, okay, then you can use an individual. But I see a lot of people defaulting to individual. I asked this question yesterday to a client, and they focused in on an individual, and I kind of gave the same feedback just to make sure that you're really hearing the question because this is a team-based question. I would. Is there any way to delay an offer from a big company like Google? You might need more than a few days. You had some personal issues to figure it out. Hey, if you got to push the offer, I would just provide as much clarity as you can. If you say personal issues and you don't actually share what's going on with them, which I do not expect you to share in this forum, but with them, if you're at the offer stage, you might need to provide a little bit more clarity than personal issues because they need to be attached to what's going on so that they can help you and delay the offer internally for you. And your second question is if you happen to refuse an offer now but become available in a couple of months, would there be a negative effect? The most negative effect of declining and coming back later is that the positions might not still be available, especially this year. We're at the beginning of September. In the beginning of November, there's just going to be less headcount left because they're driving and pushing to get all that headcount completed. And then by the time we hit December, there's really just not a ton of hiring. Maybe the first week of December to get it all done, but after that, not so much. So you're just risking giving up the role, but sometimes you need to decline because of personal items and then come back to it in the future. Or what you could do is say, would it be possible, talk to your recruiter, would it be possible to accept and start next year? Again, you may not know your current timeline based on personal items that are going on. So I understand you're in a pretty tricky situation, but I hope that feedback helped. Okay, so I'll post the video for questions to ask the hiring manager. There's just a ton of them, but I like the warm and fluffies to start. So the warm and fluffies are, what do you love the most about the company? What do you love the most about the role? What is the coolest thing you're working on right now? Positive, positive, positive. What's the coolest opportunity for me in this position? What do you think is the most fun thing I'm going to work on? Just have that really positive pitch and tone, but I'll timestamp that video. Again, like with anything and timestamping these videos, sometimes it takes me a few days to get to it. So questions to ask your interviewer. It's one of our most popular YouTube videos. Check it out. You got an offer at 1 p.m. India time. Would it be okay to message the recruiter to see if next week you have a busy schedule? I feel like you could probably make it work for an offer, but it's really up to you. I don't think you're going to put anything at risk, but yeah, I would see if you could make the time. I think you could probably find at least 5 minutes to have a conversation. That's just my 2 cents. Absolutely. Your recruiter is a temp and replied back on what the two interviewers will entail. Still vague though. Each interviewer will be assigned to a couple of attributes each, but you will not necessarily know which ones. I would prepare for all attributes. Okay, attributes sounds like Amazon. So yeah, I don't know. I guess again, I don't know. That sounds like Amazon, and they would not tell you the attributes if it was for Amazon. But I thought we've been talking about Google, so come back to us. Let us know. All right, Rick, you keep lowballing us on the numbers. We're at 42 right now. So yeah, if you guys are still here and liking the content, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We would love it if you do. I consistently am told I don't sound confident despite my answers hit the right points. I realize it's likely the way I speak. How can I tackle this without sounding inauthentic and rehearsed? More pauses, more inflection, more pitch and tone, more pace, more movement without hitting the mic. You might need to overemphasize. So for me, you can see sometimes I have an uptick in my energy just to switch the pace out, switch the tone. I realized I did a live a couple weeks ago and I came out, I was really calm and everything was very flat, and monotone. And so you might just need to overemphasize, but practice overemphasizing. Practice it with somebody else and let them tell you whether it's totally ridiculous or not. Get a second verbal offer from Google. They met my ask on sign-on bonus and stock. They did not meet my base salary expectation. Also, the stock is vesting 33, 33, 22, 12 for 4 years, which they met total comp for year one. How do you negotiate further on base? Just got to push back again. Base is the least flexible thing. So if they met the expectations on those other items, but they can't move the base, well, maybe they can make up the discrepancy in stock or sign-on bonus, but they don't move on base. Base is typically low. So it sounds like you're doing well so far in the negotiation, but base salary stuff, the ranges are pretty narrow. So you might be able to move the needle a little bit, but just look at total comp and think about total comp. But stock's usually the biggest push point. Oh, that's a big question. So I can try and go high level here. We have a lot of videos on frameworks, so definitely make sure you go back into the channel and just look at some of those framework videos because it's a big subject. But what is the goal of a framework? The framework is, I know my stuff. Here's the stuff. So what does the framework do? It shows credibility. It shows that you can organize high-level data really quickly, 30 seconds or less, and then that you don't spend all the time at this fluffy high level. Here's the stuff I know, and then it allows you to pick one of those subjects and get more focused in your solution. That's going to be super high level. Frameworks is probably an hour discussion on its own and maybe should be the topic of one of our lives to really focus in on frameworks. But we have a ton of good videos on frameworks, so definitely go into our video section and search. We probably have 5 to 10 videos just focused on frameworks. How long from an HC approved to hire to an offer should I expect as being reasonable? From HC approved to hire to offer, I don't know, a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. It's slow. Yeah, it just depends on how fast your recruiter's moving, how quickly hiring committee met, how fast compensation's moving. It's slow. Just stay patient. 50 likes, 43 people. Again, Eric, you keep lowballing our numbers. This is crazy. We got 43 people here, especially at the end. And by the way, thank you everybody for hanging out with us for so long. We appreciate it. We try to go as long as we can and get all the questions answered. Keep hitting that like button. I'm not looking at that, so I don't know what it looks like. Like, subscribe. We appreciate it. Not sure if you remember me from another live. Your name looks familiar. Asking about Google interviews, but you got an offer. Amazing. Congrats. That's awesome. Again, I think we've had like 5 or 6 people come through today saying they got an offer, and we're here to be a small part of the journey and help you along the way and maybe uncover some systems and solutions that are going to help you have success, but you put in the hard work. So thank you for showing up and thank you for coming back and saying thanks. We sincerely appreciate it. Yeah, and we do have the courses too, and I can throw that up because we haven't been using our fun little tool. It cuts off the top of my head, but we have a free course. That course is not going to stay free for forever. I've been saying that for a long time, so but we have done some massive improvements to it, so it won't stay up forever. So go check it out if you can. That will explain some of the framework stuff for you. Okay, awesome. The Google hiring process is nothing on earth. You look forward to sharing what you've learned with your family and friends. Yeah, absolutely. It's a crazy, crazy process. Okay, hi from India. It's getting pretty late. We're hitting 11:45 in India, so thanks for showing up and saying hi. Yes, it takes a long time. And so this is our stopping point. We hit all of our questions. We see we still have a really, really strong audience right now. We appreciate everybody showing up. If you liked what we did today, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Just a final note, I will not be live next week. Next week I'll be off. So we'll be back in 2 weeks with another live, and I'll make sure that I put that into the YouTube community comments as well, just so everybody's aware. Okay, last comment coming in here. You always stop by here and love learning something new. Thank you so much, Armand. That's like a great note for us to end. We'll see you in a couple weeks, and thank you so much for showing up. Take care. Bye.